Well, it's time for takeoff, Bradley. This is the moment we've been waiting for. We've been waiting a long time for today. My name is Ruben J, and that on the other side of the screen is Mr. Bradley Biggs, and we are your captains for Space is Hard, the Unofficial Space Force Podcast, launching now. Bradley, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well. I'm excited to kick this off with you. It's been in the works a while, so I'm excited to get it going.
Yeah, man, and I'm super excited that we now have a new show on Netflix that we can a bunch of people are excited for.
Yes.
A lot of people are watching this show, and so many mixed reviews, so many great things happening. But before we jump into today's show, subscribe to this YouTube channel if you're watching this on YouTube, because this is a huge project for the Multimedia Mouth brand. We are testing a lot of new content here, and this is part of it. And if you're listening to this on a podcasting platform, subscribe to us on that podcasting platform. And if you're listening to us on Spreaker and you're like, dude, I wish there was a podcast platform that I like, let us know what that platform is, and we will do our best to get the show on that platform for you. Right now, we're on Apple Podcast and a ton of other I think we're on Downcast and a bunch of other places, pending the Google Play Store. Spotify and iHeartRadio are all pending. So just subscribe to us. We'll be there shortly, I promise. But let's jump into the very first episode of Space Force.
Let's do it.
So before we jump into that, though, I want to know, what were your expectations of the show? Because I feel like when you have Greg Daniels and Steve Carell and Lisa Kudrow all a part of this project, there are going to be some high hopes for the show. Were you one of the ones that had high hopes for the show, or were you just kind of like, we'll see how this goes?
Yeah, I can't speak for you, but I knew going into this that I definitely had high hopes for the cast. And I think that's what a lot of people have been banking on, is just it's got an all-star cast, and you really can't go wrong with a lot of these people that they chose. Going in, I tried not to have too many expectations because I didn't want to get too far into it and be disappointed or anything. But yeah, I'd say going into it, I just had an open mind, and yeah, I thought they did a good job with the casting. What did you think?
Yeah, I was the same way. Like, for me, it was all about the casting, because we don't know much about the real Space Force, the President Trump branded Space Force. Except that it's signing the law, it's going to happen, but we don't know what their missions are, we don't know what their goals are, we don't know where they're going with it. So it was really, I think it's easy in one aspect for them to create a show around this concept that isn't necessarily, it's not like starting a series about an office per se, or, starting a series about, NASCAR racers, where you know what the world looks like and you know how it generally is going to feel. This is a whole new concept, both in the creative aspect of it being a show, but also this branch of military is literally being built from the ground up.
Exactly.
So for me, it was very much like, okay, cool. Lisa Kudrow, I'm all over that. Steve Carell, all over that. Greg Daniels being a part of the team, I'm all over that. Some of the other characters that I saw in there, like one of the doctors, I don't remember what his real name is. I'm actually gonna look it up right now. He was on Silicon Valley. And
oh, right,
yeah, he was on Silicon Valley, so I knew his acting ability, and so I was like, okay, cool. Like, him interacting with Steve Carell is going to be huge. Ben Schwartz, I've seen him in tons of movies in the past. He plays that social media assistant or whatever, and so like Jimmy O Yang.
Right, the doctor, yes.
So, and then I had seen her name's Diana Silver. She plays Erin. I had seen him or seen her in a movie about a year ago called Booksmart, and she played a lesbian who hooked up with the main character in that movie, and just got, like, the main character threw up on her right when they're about to start hooking up, which was just hilarious. So I was familiar with a lot of these cast members, and obviously Lisa Kudrow playing the wife was. She was actually a surprising addition to the show, in my opinion, because I'm like, oh, you have Lisa Kudrow, who's generally plays, this kind of airheady, ditzy blonde character. And then you have Steve Carell, who usually plays, an airhead dummy dude, tends to screw everything up. So I was like, oh, that's gonna be an interesting casting. So for me, it was totally 100% about the casting.
Definitely. And you made an interesting point about Steve Carell, because I not my words, but I was reading somewhere online how with the character of Michael Scott, he essentially makes his own life like a living nightmare just by the kind of person he is. He finds himself in these really awkward situations, but with General Nerd, in Space Force, it's like all the external factors in his life around him are what causes his life to become like this living hell. So it is definitely a contrast in the characters, but yeah, I mean, I think so far it seems to be a pretty solid team overall.
Yeah, so I really liked this show. I think there's a lot of room to grow, and we'll jump into that here in a minute. I have not watched episode 2 yet, so I don't know
Neither
how.
have I.
Okay, cool. So we're both kind of like on episode 1, just kind of waiting to see what happens next, even though they're all available. So let's, real quick, let's jump into what we thought. The opening scene was I thought pretty hilarious. With him being given his 4th star, and he's like, I'm gonna give a speech, and then as he starts giving a speech, he's cut off. He's like, never mind, we should just hurry up. I just wish my parents were here. Just kind of a funny, good, easy laugh. The one I noticed right away was they used interesting camera angles, where I don't know if you saw, like, when they were walking the hallway, it felt like the camera like came right in front of him and kind of was like following him in a weird way.
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to, like, it kind of felt like they were trying to keep a little bit of that like documentary kind of feel in a sense. And then when the other general, who was the general of the Air Force, came, the camera kind of like flipped around in a way that I was just like, oh, this is really interesting. This is really creative camera work in the show. Did you see that same kind of creativeness with the show?
I didn't actually catch that the first time watching it, but now that you say that, it really does make sense. And I think I'm not used to seeing, because I've seen plenty of Steve Carell's movies, but I think for the most part, I'm not used to seeing him neglect to break the fourth wall. So I think in that sense, it's like it's almost awkward to see that happen. But I agree with you. I think the way that it was shot was indeed very creative.
Yeah. So right from the start, we see that it seems like General Naird is picking, is biting off more than he can chew right from the start. Setting him up for probably what anyone else would look at and say, "Oh, that's going to totally fail miserably." I found this really interesting. When they decided to move to, they gave him the promotion, told him he's in charge of Space Force now, and then he moved to Colorado, and then all of a sudden, I got really confused when Lisa Kudrow disappeared.
Dude, I was going to talk to you about that. I don't know if we're at that portion in the podcast yet, but I did not understand what was going on.
Neither do I. It's one of those things where it's like, okay, episode 1, there's a huge there's a huge plot hole, in my opinion, is what happened to Maggie Naird. What did she do? Why is she in prison? And why did it happen right when he got his big promotion?
Right. No, and it seemed like we weren't really supposed to know, which was the odd thing. Like, it was just kind of, boom, she's gone, and now she's in prison. And I felt like the episode kind of was meant to just more so lay out the characters than anything else, because in reality, all we kind of know so far is that there's the Epsilon, which is going to launch, even though everyone is warning General Naird against it. And I feel like that's kind of all we took away from episode 1. What do you think?
Yeah, I felt the same way. I felt like this episode, what episode 1 did a really good job of was, like you said, setting up the characters, and showing that General Naird doesn't like everybody he works with, or I don't think he likes anybody he works with. And it did a really good job, I think, of laying out the underlining characters, because Jimmy Yang, who again plays that doctor, you can tell he's going to be a bigger part of the show than we probably expect. I feel like his daughter Diana Silvers, I think she's going to play a bigger part. John Malkovich, first of all, he's a doctor who's like, that first scene with the two of them was hilarious. I found that scene to be, I was
that was a really good scene.
So hard, because he was like, the doctor's like, I'm gonna pull rank, and Naird's like, yeah, I'm the highest ranking person here, so like, unless you're the president, you can't really pull rank on me. And so I just found that first scene hilarious. But what it didn't do is it didn't really explain the story all that well. Again, like you said, all we know is that there's a launch happening. and it looks like it's going to be the most impossible and also very timely manner with the SpaceX launch happening the same week the show launched. So very good timing for
exactly. I don't know if I knew about that, but it was on point.
Yeah, it was great timing. So, but yeah, once Lisa Kudrow all of a sudden was in jail, I was just like, okay, the show kind of lost me a little bit because I don't know what she did. I don't know why she's in jail. I don't know why she's going to be there for a long time.
Yeah.
Also, why did she give her husband a free pass to kind of, hook up with whoever he wanted? So it's a really interesting first show.
I think so too. I liked how they kind of alluded to the way that digital marketing is in the 21st century with the scene with Steve Carell and Ben Schwartz, who plays Tony, kind of the wiry social media guy, talking about how nerds should incorporate Star Wars and Wendy's references into his tweet. It's just funny to see how much that kind of proliferates, even in the scope of something like the armed forces. I thought that was clever.
Speaking of the digital media portion of it, I kind of felt that the show is going to be kind of a big like a middle finger towards the president of the United States, because it felt like there's a couple times where they took digs at President Trump.
Yeah,
talking about how much the president tweeted and how much they never mentioned by name, which was good. I actually kind of enjoy. I enjoyed the comedy where it wasn't straight up being, oh, Trump's an idiot. It was like we were making fun of the president without actually naming the president. So we're not being complete, social justice warriors. But at the same time, it's like we want everyone to know that we don't like the president. So it was really interesting, in my opinion, to see. Did you get the same kind of feel that this was kind of like a low blow to the president in a sense?
Oh, definitely, yeah. And I think there was even a scene where the whole kind of tagline for the Epsilon launch was, boots on the moon by 2024, I believe. And even how in the show, how the president misspelled boots as boobs, like it's just, they definitely took some digs. And with the casting, I expected that. I thought that would be a given, but I do appreciate the fact that it wasn't as blatant as it could have been, even though it was still pretty blatant.
Yeah, I mean, it was as blatant as you can get without just straight up saying that you hate Donald Trump,
Yeah.
Which again, it's more creative than most of the other TV shows on cable and network broadcast right now, where it's just all the late night hosts are making a living off of saying that they hate Trump.
Exactly.
I feel like at this point, real comedy is shown by how you can make fun of somebody without actually blatantly making fun of them.
Exactly. And I think it's important to just not take ourselves too seriously either, because I think regardless of however we feel, it's we can laugh about it. We can laugh about certain things that the president does from time to time.
famous last words right there.
Yeah.
And it's just hilarious because no matter which side of the aisle you stand on, you find out things kind of offends you a little bit differently. And it's like, you can be for one thing and then be like, oh, that one thing that I actually really believe in did something really stupid, and then all of a sudden the people that you thought were on your side are like, you're an idiot. And it's just kind of hilarious how this whole political jargon lies. And I'm interested to see what people have to say about the show. So again, if you want to hit us up on Instagram or Facebook, our Instagram is @spaceshard. You can go to facebook.com/ I believe it's Space is Hard Podcast. Let me double check that. I made all this stuff and I don't remember. Yeah, Space is Hard Podcast. Facebook.com/ Space is Hard Podcast. And let us know what you think of episode 1. We want to hear from you guys.
Definitely.
And of course, real quick, before we jump into more of this, there is a link in the description down below, both in the audio and video version of this podcast. If you click that link, it's going to be an Amazon link. And if you do some shopping there, guess what? We make some money off this. So if you want to do some shopping, head over there, click the button and do things. Hey, did you know that we have 113 people following us on Facebook?
113? Wow. Oh my gosh. I feel like last time I looked, it was probably at 60.
Oh man, you haven't looked in a while then, because it was at 80 for a minute, and then I went to I went to go to the bathroom, and then when I came back, it was like at 100. I was like, dang,
that's amazing.
We're doing something right.
Well, thank you guys so much for following. We definitely appreciate it.
Yeah, we do really appreciate it. And we hope that you enjoy this show as much as we do. And hopefully you enjoy the podcast as much as we enjoy doing this. And again, this is going to be 10 episodes of Space Force. And so we're going to be going over each of those. And after that, depending on how well this does, we might go and look at, some Steve Carell movies or some Lisa Kudrow episodes of Friends, or go at Silicon Valley and just have some fun. So you are along for the ride. So let's get to the excuse me. Let me grab a bottle of water real quick. Give me a second.
Go for it. Yeah, absolutely. I definitely agree with what Ruben was saying. And who knows, maybe eventually, if this really takes off, we might even be able to have Steve Carell or Lisa Kudrow on the show. Who knows? Possibilities are endless.
I didn't hear a word you said, so I'm just going to nod along and say, let's go for it.
We're going to have Steve Carell on the show, is what I said.
Yes, we are.
I'm making lots of promises I cannot keep.
It might be, that's Corolla. Never mind. I was going to say it might be Steve Corolla, but like Steve Toyota Corolla, but that was a failed joke. But there is a possibility. I do know that episode 8, which is still a while away, I know somebody who was on that show, and their wife has committed to having them on this podcast for episode 8.
Cannot wait. That's going to be really, really exciting.
I'm super excited. So I want to talk to you about something that I found hilarious.
Yeah.
Nancy Pelosi, AOC, and whoever the other person was, I believe it was supposed to be Chuck Schumer.
Yes.
Sure. All made an appearance on Space Force, and I felt I forgot what they called her, Nancy Pelosi or something.
I believe it was. Oh, what was it? Patucci? It was something.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to find it right now. But
it was Potosi.
Potosi, yes, Potosi.
And Senator Schugler.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, I found that hilarious to see. Just to see that, I was like, okay, cool. Yeah, they're making fun of the president, but they're also making fun of everybody, which I thought was a nice change in pace. What did you think when you saw our members of Congress show up?
It's kind of like a weird parallel universe in a sense. And it's interesting because this whole portrayal of Space Force really is just a comedic mocking of the actual Space Force. So I think to see that parallel really was interesting, and it made it seem, I think, more real. But it was a little odd. At least that's how I felt. I don't think I was expecting it.
I was all for it. In the trailer, you saw the girl. I believe it's Ginger Gonzalez or Gonzaga, yeah, who plays. Let me see if I get this name right. Where'd it go? I should have wrote this down. Where'd it go?
It's okay. I have all the cast lists open on my phone as well.
Annabelle Yzordro Campos is the so AYC as opposed to AOC. Just
I didn't catch that one.
And she had the red lipstick like AOC has, and kind of has the mannerisms like AOC, and can tell that she's a bit of an airhead who somehow got elected to Congress. So it was funny. And I just really enjoyed seeing them bring these Democratic side of things and make fun of them as well. And it was good. Again, it wasn't like one of those things where it's like, oh, the Democrats are the smart people and the Republicans are the stupid people, right, or the president's stupid and the Congress is smart. It was like, hey, everyone here is kind of stupid. So
yeah, no, I think it's a great equalizer, especially now when people are tend to be very up in arms about everything. I thought it was a great way to kind of lighten the load.
Exactly. And I felt like, I feel like the casting on this was actually done really well. I kind of feel, again, so if we compare this to The Office, if you think about anybody else in the position to play Pam, probably wouldn't have connected with the audience as well. Anybody else to play Jim probably wouldn't have worked out well. Anyone else to play Dwight probably would not have worked out well. I feel like a lot of these characters and cast members are in the same position where hopefully these people become somewhat iconic because of the show. And, you look back in 10 years and be like, yeah, they made the right choice off that casting.
Definitely. Yeah. And I think too, it's people see it as a bad thing to become typecast in a certain role. And I can understand that, but I do think that this this new show is going to be an opportunity for Steve Carell to kind of break out of that mold of Michael Scott. And I think so far he's doing a pretty good job.
Absolutely, yeah. I think he's done a really good job of breaking the Michael Scott typecast. I think a lot of it has to do with his other show on Apple TV called The Morning Show, where it wasn't a comedic role at all. It was 100% like serious acting, and I think he did a really great job on there. And to translate and go back into more of a comedic role, I think he did a really good job. I think the transition was really well. Of course, I honestly can't remember how the show ended off the top of my head anymore. I watched it like 3 days ago, so I don't.
I believe I know. Same here. I was getting ready for work and running around as I was watching it. I believe we saw the Epsilon launch. Correct?
Yes. Okay. Yeah. That was okay. So that was actually really cool because it was built off as this. There's no way this is gonna work. Like this is the stupidest thing ever. This is $6 billion. Going down the drain, or 6 middle schools or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Which I thought was a hilarious thing. And then all of a sudden, the feed breaks and they're like, it's in orbit. It made it. And they're just like, whoa. Yeah. And I think they did a really great job of setting up the next episode 2, when they saw that foreign interference come in and like detach the entire spacecraft. I thought it was pretty interesting. What did you think about that?
Yeah, no, that was a total cliffhanger. And I still need to see episode 2, but I definitely, it did a good job of, I think, maintaining my interest from start to finish, which a lot of shows are not super adept at these days.
Yeah, I was actually really excited to see that they did a really good cliffhanger between the episode 1 and episode 2, because with comedies you usually don't get cliffhangers like that.
It's true.
So this feels like it's a weird hybrid between a comedy and like a drama. So I'm excited to see what
dramedy.
Drama. There you go. I'm excited to see what comes next. So, out of everything that happened, what was your favorite moment from episode 1?
Oh man, I think we can't go the entire length of this podcast without talking about the Kokomo scene.
Oh,
because
yes.
I think that, like, when I think back to episode 1, I think that is going to be the moment that sticks out in my mind. Is Michael Scott, or wow, oh my goodness, wow. General Nerd.
All right, it's first time so far.
It's gonna take a while. I'm sorry. When we see General Nerd just busting a move to Kokomo, I thought for sure that probably took the cake as my favorite scene. What about you?
I will say this: I do love Kokomo. I think it's a great song, and I feel like that song definitely kind of helps me get into like a calmer mood. So usually when I'm stressed out, I'll listen to Kokomo. That's where I want to go.
That's where everyone wants to go.
I feel like they kind of not stole it, but they kind of like recycled it from The Office when Andy went down to I forgot what song it was that he danced to, but he did like a full on.
Oh right, yeah, like the punch dance. Yeah.
My favorite moment of the show, would probably be the part where he and the doctor were kind of arguing, and he's like, I forgot what he said, but they $1,000 for plastic, button covers or whatever, and they flash forward to like him sitting in the control center and like putting his feet on the desk, and he hits the launch button and he just goes, oh shit. I was like, that's something I would do. Yeah. And then you fast forward to the actual launch, and they have the plastic button cover on there, which is hilarious.
Yeah, that's pretty great.
So good lining there. So moving forward, what are your expectations for the show?
I am looking. So from what I understand, it's 10 episodes, right? At least for now. Yeah. So I would really like to see in these 10 episodes, obviously some more character development, but more so that, I mean, honestly, I think that episode 1 did a good job of that. So I'd say more important to me than character development would be just plot development. I want to know more about the Epsilon. I want to know more about the imprisonment and General Nerd's daughter with, what's his name? Bobby? Is that his American name?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. I want to know what's going on there. And I think as time moves on, we will definitely get that information. What are you hoping to see?
honestly, I need to know what happened that Lija Kudrow ended up in jail. I need to know the scandal, because if they don't address that, it's going to be the biggest upset in television history.
Watch them come back to like episode 10 and then finally fill that gap in.
I would hate them for that. I would hate them for that. I definitely think that there's a couple different things where they can go. Obviously, with the daughter dating the Russian, there's a lot. Or was he Russian or?
I think so.
I think it was,
I believe so.
yeah, that's going to be interesting. I also hope that General Naird stops talking like this, like on purpose, like not Batman. It sounds like it hurts to talk like that.
A little bit.
So I do hope that, I hope it's I have high hopes for the show. I feel like there is a lot of room for this show. I like it a lot better right off the bat than I did The Office, which is good.
Yeah.
But like I think you said, I think you and I kind of both commented that it wasn't as good as we thought it was going to be. But looking back at The Office, the whole first season was terrible.
Right.
And after that, it got really, really good. So for me to be, for me to be here and be like, okay, yeah, the show wasn't terrible. It shows that it's far, heads and shoulders above where The Office was when this all started out. So
it's got a lot of potential, and I think going back to something that we'd like to see get resolved, there was a connection I felt between General Naird and Angela, the helicopter pilot, and I couldn't really tell what kind of a connection it was. I didn't know if it was more so leaning in a romantic direction or if it was like a father-daughter kind of thing. I'm really not sure. It was in the scene where she purposefully makes General Naird a minute late to his meeting. And I just thought that was interesting, especially after his wife said, if you're in need of companionship. Like, I have no idea where this is going. So I think that would be one thing in time I'm looking forward to seeing more of.
Yeah, see how he may or may not decide to interact with people. I mean, it's going to be interesting. This whole show is going to be interesting. There's a lot of things that this show can go. I wouldn't be surprised if at some point he gets fired, and then only to be brought back somehow because he steals the paper competition or something. I don't know.
He starts his own Space Force.
I would love, honest to God, I would love for him to be fired in episode 10 and then for season 2 to kick off with him being like, this is the Michael Scott Space Force. I mean, General Naird Space Force.
We need to take a tally of how many times we accidentally say Michael Scott.
I did that on purpose, though.
Okay.
That one was on purpose.
So it's just me then. All right, cool.
So far, just you. But I mean, I've almost said Phoebe a couple times I purposely had to go and say Lisa Kudrow as opposed to I think her name's Maggie in this or something.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, that's season 1 or episode 1. I give it a 3 out of 5 personally, 3 out of 5 stars.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, I feel like it was better than The Office, but not as good as we expected. But hopefully the season overall will become a 5.
Yeah, I sure hope so. I think it's a pretty good rating.
Well, sweet. Well, that's all the time we have for you guys today. Again, make sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel if you're watching us on YouTube. And if you're listening to us on any of the podcasting platforms that we are on, of course, subscribe to us there as well. But, of course, the biggest place where you can find us right now is Facebook, facebook.com/SpacesHard Podcast, and Instagram @SpacesHard. Bradley, what's your Instagram that you want people to follow you on? Because you have like 97 Instagram accounts.
I do. I am just about everywhere on Instagram. The account on which I am most active is at the Hysterical Pyromaniac, which I know is a crazy name. I am not hysterical, nor am I a pyromaniac.
Pyromaniac, someone who likes to make things explode?
Pretty much, like set things on fire, make things explode.
So you're hysterical and you blow things up.
Right. No, not at all.
So you emotionally blow up and then you go blow real things up.
I suppose if that were the case, it would be a pretty good outlet. But no, in fact, it is alluding to my two favorite albums of all time, both by the great band Def Leppard. So any other Def Leppard fans on there, feel free to follow me. I would love to follow you back.
Awesome. And of course, you can follow me on Instagram at the Ruben J. And I have another podcast, comes out on Mondays. Go to thebestfriendshow.com for more details on that. This is all one giant, big podcasting family. But again, my name is Ruben J.
I'm Bradley Biggs.
And am I allowed to end it the same way I end my other podcast?
Do it. Just go for it, my friend.
And we are out of time. You guys sometime next week.
See ya.